Tesla has continued its downward draft over the past couple of weeks, and today is no different. It's going to be a hard week, I think, for Tesla as we start to near the end of the year and what we may see in terms of their Q4 deliveries. We'll talk about all that, why Tesla may be in bigger trouble than a lot of people think, or is there kind of a hidden model here coming at us? My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into TechPath. Let's get into it today. There's a lot that I'm going to showcase here around Tesla. As you guys know, this channel actually was birthed on covering a lot of technology news that eventually really rolled more so into the blockchain side, and which is where we really focus on though. But we do have a ton of research around especially EVs and kind of future of technology when it comes to the automotive sector, and mainly because of how it might affect other industries. The bigger part of this is the connection to crypto. And now that we know of Elon's, crypto affair and his potential plans with Twitter, a lot of this is starting to really have some detrimental effects on what's happening over at Tesla. And I'm going to get into a couple of things. We'll run down a lot of topics today, but I want to start with Rob Maurer, who is, I would say, the most prolific research analyst and journalist on Tesla. I'm going to cut to his clip really quickly because he's talking about what was happening last week with Tesla's downtrend, which has, of course, carried over to this week. Let's play this clip.
To $137.80 while the Nasdaq was flat on the day, and the trend of high volume continues. This was the second highest volume day for Tesla in the last year, second to last Tuesday, which was in the midst of Elon's sales last week. So we've got really high volume, we've got a significant underperformance that carries the type of markings that we have seen on Elon selling before now. There's a lot of discussion on whether or not Elon is in a blackout period right now, this close into earnings. I do believe that would be the case. However, there can be exceptions to that. A pre-planned sale would be one option. I don't think that would be the case here. Most of Elon's recent selling has not been pre-planned, meaning in an official capacity with forms filed ahead of time. So I think that would be pretty unlikely, but there can be other exceptions as well, so can't entirely rule out the possibility of Elon continuing to sell over today or even the last few days. From a calendar perspective, we know Elon sold on Monday through Wednesday last week. If he would have continued that selling on Thursday, we would have needed to see a Form 4 for that yesterday. So unless that were filed late for some reason, that would rule out any selling from Thursday last week, which was interestingly the lowest volume day and actually the last green day that we'd had for Tesla as well. All
right, so as you can see there, Elon's sales of his stock to essentially maybe adjust what's happening with Twitter and being able to cover what's going on with Twitter. The real question is whether or not we'll continue to see selling in Q1 with Elon. To really kind of play out the whole issue, and I think the strategy with what Twitter may be playing into this, from a larger perspective. And the aspect of Tesla stock being pretty much the cash cow here for how Twitter may get funded could be a big detrimental issue to where the future of Tesla might play. Now, a lot of this, as you guys know, I've been a big Tesla fan for multiple years. I have owned 3 different Teslas. I'm a big fan of the vehicle. I have been a big fan of the company in the past, not so much anymore. Full disclosure, I completely exited my stock position with Tesla back in September. And my goal was really the challenges that the company was facing. And when I say the challenges, if you look at the performance so far, the continuation of sales numbers, all those kind of things, they don't really slow down. There are some things that could start to really cause some issues with Tesla. And I'll talk about some of those as we get in further in the video. But I think the biggest issue that Tesla is facing right now is going to be the issue around China. And I'll talk about that. But before we get into that, I want to show you the S&P 500. This is the current stocks that were the least performing for the year. This is all of 2022. And as you'll notice here, you had Match in here, Align Technology, SVB, and then you had Tesla right here at down 67.8% for 2022, being one of the worst stock performers for the year. And this even surpasses Facebook, which was absolutely dumping billions into what Meta was trying to do and is trying to do. And then You've got a ton of other companies in there. Signature Bank, which we know their connection into crypto. PayPal, of course, struggling. Carnival, obviously, we know about the cruise line side. And it doesn't get any better with some of these top 500 or S&P 500. And really what this boils down to, I think, for Tesla is going to be the Q4 earnings and then the potential of being able to actually deliver on some of the promises that Tesla has made over the past several years. And I think that's one of the big things that is probably causing a lot of analysts and also a lot of individuals, including whales, to maybe reconsider their Tesla position, which I think is what's happening right now with the current stock as it continues to fall. And then here you've got this statement. This was back again in early December, and it was talking about the bad news that you could anticipate for Tesla investors as Elon was considering taking out Tesla-backed margin loans. Instead, what he ended up doing was selling. And that was really kind of the force thought of how and what you should be doing to prepare for something like this if you were holding Tesla stock. Now, granted, there's a lot of people out there that maybe have purchased Tesla in different price points and are looking at more of a long-term hope. Maybe you've never purchased Tesla right now. Is right now the time to buy as we continue to see the market depressed in terms of Tesla? The things I'm watching for right now are very, very critical to some of the things that have not performed over the past few years for Tesla. Deliveries is not necessarily one of them, but one of the things that really kind of sticks out to me, and I think always will, is the fact that Tesla's Model 2 has never even been discussed before. Again, I mean, it was discussed a couple of battery days ago, and then it is as if it was a black sheep of the family. It just, nobody talks about it anymore. And here you've got Tesla, which will need its Model 2 as India continues to ramp up its numbers. And this is BYD. If you guys are not following the electric car sector, this is one of the companies that you really need to pay close attention to. And I'll explain more about BYD in a minute. But BYD started selling what they call the Atto 3 in India, which is, they're trying to go after the Indian market in terms of an EV side of things. And their vehicles are like $10,000 to $20,000 or $10,000, and they sold 20,000 in the first month. Now, granted, these are super small vehicles. China is notorious for these kinds of vehicles, along with other, BYD has a very expansive line of vehicles. But really being able to crack some of these growing and emerging markets is going to be critical for Tesla. China is a good example. And they have yet to truly crack that market wide open. BYD is far outselling, I'll show you some charts, far outselling in the of electrification country in the world. And their advancement around alternative energy is, I would say, number one in compared to any other major power in the world. So getting into India, obviously getting into Europe is going to be big. Obviously, the situation that could have not been avoided was the Ukraine war. And that really started to slow things down, I think, in general for the EU, obviously because of the issue of power grids and the need for electrification access and what Tesla is going to be faced with at Giga Berlin. Even though Giga Berlin is up and there's some sales going on within it, the challenge is still going to be whether or not they can address some of these emerging markets. The other thing that plays into this, and I want to just kind of showcase this a little bit. Remember, Elon's selling Tesla stock. And in the beginning of last year, early this year, he actually sold 75% of his Bitcoin at the time, which was a considerable amount. It was like 1.26 billion. So that's down to around 218 million. This was after the sell-off. This was as of September 30th last year. So again, we look at the scenario of it's continuing to hold its position, Tesla, on Bitcoin. So Elon seems to be selling Tesla stock over Bitcoin at least. Now, granted, he's got a lot more of Tesla stock, which can help him in the essence of being able to grow and continue to sustain Twitter, which I think is going to be a continuous push over the next 2-3 quarters for Twitter, because there's a lot of advertisers that have started to defect. We've already started to see some of the challenges that Twitter has had. And whether or not they can pull out of this is going to be a very, very big question mark And unfortunately, it is very, very tied to Tesla. And there's a lot of analysts that don't like this. They don't necessarily like what Elon is doing around this. And he needs to essentially kind of lose the Twitter gig and get back to work at Tesla, is essentially what Gary Black and others have been kind of talking about. And I would have to agree with that. I think and this is something I've talked about before on this show, is that I think Elon really needs to focus in on the cash cows that he has. And that, of course, is Tesla. I think right now it's still the number one vehicle out there in terms of innovation. Now, I won't call it the number one car because it doesn't sell in the number one level, but it's the number one electric vehicle. And of course, when you look at innovation, I would still argue that Tesla is probably the number one vehicle out there globally. Now, granted, there's a lot of things that you would have to continue to develop on to hold that rein in. And one of the big areas to develop has been Autopilot. And you guys have probably heard me talk about Autopilot many more. I'm going to show you some egg on my face about Autopilot here in a second on a video that I did around Autopilot. But here's Tesla stopping its reporting of its Autopilot safety numbers to NHTSA. And this is something that is pretty significant. I'll go into why further in the video, so stick around for that, because I think it reveals a very big part of why Autopilot numbers are, one, climbing, and why this may be much worse off for Tesla than anyone could have expected. And there's a lot that is hinging on the future of this car company in terms of Autopilot. And we've talked about this many, many times before, is that without Autopilot, Tesla is essentially just any other electric vehicle company. And there's a lot of those out there, whether you think about NIO, BYD, etc., that are going to continue to put a lot of pressure on it. Here's the other thing right now. California has now banned Tesla from calling its software full self-driving. This is another problem that I have with the vehicle, and I've owned now 3 of these things. I have had the full self-driving. I've not had the beta, but I've had the full self-driving that's available to you. And at the end of the day, it is not a product that I continued to pay for, and this was a subscription model. I didn't buy it because I wanted to see what full self-driving meant in terms of actual use case for the vehicle. Just not there. Too many lane departures, too many problems with, don't have city streets, thank goodness. And there's just too many problems with it at its state that it is. Just Autopilot in general, I would say, is still about a 90% product. You still get ghost braking. There's still some variations in lane departure. There's some problems with oncoming traffic or complex traffic around this. And I've been driving these cars for years. It just has not been accelerating. Now, with the departure of their full self-driving Andrej Karpathy lead, maybe there's been a slowdown there. I just don't know when you think about where Tesla is going on this. This was a video that I did about 1.5 years ago where I was talking about how Tesla's full self-driving might take over food delivery. This is how basically nuts I was around full self-driving. I'm going to play a quick clip.
These market mover sessions are going, and I'm trying to pull more of these together for you guys. But basically, I want you to take a look here at a quick kind of analysis that Inside EVs did on where Tesla could be in the future in terms of car manufacturing. And the reason I say this is because the robotaxi service that Elon Musk keeps touting, which takes these cars to full self-driving and a full autonomy, is a very key factor, I think, in terms of how the industry is going to move forward. And you have to...
All right, so the point being is that the issue here is full self-driving, when I did this video, was one of the biggest issues that I felt was the future of Tesla. If they were able to nail it and get it in place, this is over 1 year ago, even at that period of time, we were getting promises. But if they were able to nail it and get it in place and truly deliver full self-driving, city street level, then I felt like this would be something that completely detached away from Tesla as an auto company and changed their whole future of where this is going. And Elon himself has been I want to kind of go to a clip here. I think there's one here if I can find it. Elon himself was quoted on it. I'll see if I can find it here. It's somewhere. Well, I might have it. If the crypto pit can pull it for me, I'm trying to find that clip that we played on I think it was the Lightning podcast. But anyway, what I want to get into is the issue around full self-driving, in the sense that if they were able to deliver it, then the potential there for robotaxi and its use case would be absolutely over the top. What I mean by robotaxi, if you guys have not followed Tesla, is this would essentially be a car that you do not have to pilot at all. That was the idea that Elon was pushing for the future of where this was going to go. And I think this is a very interesting situation, because as far out as it's been in terms of delivery of full self-driving, there hasn't been that much improvement. I know a lot of the Tesla lovers and fanboys will get in there in the beta. I see all the videos on YouTube. I'm following them very heavily because I just believe in where this technology might go in the future. But I feel like we are potentially still years and years away from this ever, not only making it through technologically, but making it through from an aspect of just the legislation that will need to take place for this to happen. So that, in my perception, is that this is probably causing a continuing slide on where Tesla is going. The question will be is whether or not they can hold up with deliveries. And when you look at delivery numbers, we'll look at fourth quarter sales. This is a forecast. This was an internal leak that was basically saying that Tesla is going to deliver 500,000 Model 3 and Y vehicles in the fourth quarter. This would be, and then again in the first quarter of 2023. Now, if this comes to be the case, if they in fact break the 500,000 mark, this would be a gargantuan feat for Tesla. And granted, it will be an achievement that I think has maybe many people would look at as being a potential to possibly bounce that stock. The problem I see is that this is the Model Y and Model 3. Tesla has kind of become a one-car company in the sense of Model Ys, and rightly so. That's the big demand vehicle. But they're in a position where they haven't necessarily delivered the Model 2. Well, we know, not delivering the Model 2. They have not delivered the Cybertruck yet. We'll talk about Cybertruck in a minute. They have not delivered on full self-driving. And in reality, when you look at the situations that we continue to see in the aspect of sales growth and numbers against some of the biggest competitors in China and other countries, Tesla is barely eking through on this. So I think we here in the United States see a little different vision of it because we're highly focused on from a marketing standpoint and Tesla's network. But I think this is going to be a big factor that really does not bode well if Tesla does not hit these numbers in Q4. And Tesla, everybody's still pointing. Tesla is going to deliver in Q4 alone. They like this as an overall, and I think the scenario is if they do it, then Tesla might get a pass, and we may start to see some more movement on the stock in an upwards position. Even though I still think there's going to be some problems on sales numbers into 2023, just because of the dynamics of the macro market on Tesla in general. Let's talk about Cybertruck for a second. So this is an Electrek article simply saying, are they even going to make this thing? And this is a question mark that many people will note. And you'll notice here this design is a little different than the original design of the Cybertruck. This is a rendering that some people think that might actually happen with the Cybertruck. And the reason is to go after the SUV. Because remember, it's been doing a fairly decent job. But again, this has been the Model Y, which is essentially an SUV, even though its 7-seat passenger version is absolutely hideous. Driven it, wouldn't, in fact, had a 7-seater on order, canceled it. Ended up going with the 5-seat option. The Model X, of course, we know, highly expensive, well over $120,000, so that pretty much makes it unapproachable for most people. And then you come in with potentially the Rivian, which is you've got the R1S SUV, and then the Rivian R1T. Again, also with that version of the pickup truck and the potential SUV, which I think is where some of these people think that this might end up being a potential for more functionality over the pickup truck. I don't know. We'll see how this plays out. Again, a lot of this depends on whether or not they can actually deliver it. Now, with that being the case, it's possible that we actually might be seeing a production line starting to come to light. And this is based on material that just came in. The matter of fact, it was Christmas Eve. Tesla takes delivery of an army of robots, possibly to build the Cybertruck. And this is basically these KUKA robots. And remember, they delivered these in Houston, so that's right up the road into Austin. So easily, that's the port they would use for taking these KUKA robots in. And it suggests that they would essentially be facilitating a line in Texas, in Austin, which is where they're going to be building the Cybertrucks, to get this going. Now, if that's not enough, because I'm still looking at this on a positive side, because if Tesla does deliver Cybertruck in Q1, or at least to the point where they say, okay, we're going to start our first deliveries, that would be another big factor. So 2 points would have to happen for Q4 and Q1 is sales have to continue to be able to break those records that Tesla's holding, and something in the way of delivery. They've got to take the eye, I shouldn't say their eye off of full self-driving, but they got to take the public's perception, especially stock analysts' eye off of full self-driving. And I think the Cybertruck might be a good position. Here was another thing. This is Sandy Munro. If you guys are not following Sandy, if you're into Tesla at all, you should follow this guy, because he is one of the best breakdown analysts. He basically goes in and he's an automotive engineer, and he breaks down all of these vehicles, including Tesla's Model S, Model Y, Model 3. He's done them all. And he takes a look at a casting image, and I want to showcase something that they're doing right here. Let me play this for you guys.
Hey everybody, I'm just back from Saudi Arabia. I'd like to thank all the guys at the
clip
Saudi
forward.
things that I'll post. Something else here.
All right, so he's going to go.
And,
So he's taking a look at a potential casting unit of the
Where'd that
model
come
of the
from?
Cybertruck.
Somebody's going to get fired. Wow. Look at that casting. That's, is there a second picture? Or is this it?
I think that's it, Sandy.
Holy mackerel. That's,
What do you think?
that's actually more revolutionary than what I thought. I didn't think they would do that whole back casting. That's gigantic. Is that all one piece? I can't.
All right,
I
so
have no idea.
I'm going to stop that one there, but the point being is that Munro is notorious for appreciating the engineering feats that Tesla has done in the single casting for the Model Y, which was one of its biggest advancements in technology. It really pretty much changed everything because of the idea of how the 4680s would be used and the rear end itself. It made it more efficient. Essentially, in automotive manufacturing, fewer parts makes it more efficient, it makes it less likely to break down, all the good things that you need in automotive. And what he's talking about here is potentially that you've got robots possibly entering, you've got the situation where a casting line might actually be in place, and if this is the case, again, now you're talking about a potential win for Tesla. So right now we might be seeing a little bit of pressure on the stock based on the estimated deliveries of what we're seeing mostly in Shanghai and what we're seeing in China, but potentially a possible turnaround in Q1. Again, watch the two things very closely, Q4 deliveries and any kind of signal that the Cybertruck is being built. And I'm going to go further into this too. I want to get into deliveries. All right, so this was kind of one of the reasons, and this is both NIO and Tesla, and we've seen this over the past couple of weeks, is why these stocks can't seem to stop falling. And the big point right here that they're getting in on is Tesla's extended plan for its production halt in Shanghai. And then a lot of this is, based on, the situation over there with the virus. And they've basically had this, potential hit again on productivity, which will again cause problem with Tesla overall, especially around deliveries as well as manufacturing capacity. So that itself starts to create some pressures on Tesla to be able to hit those Q4 numbers. Obviously, that's already happened here in December. They've got just another week. Another thing that was very interesting to me, because I'm always looking at replacing my Tesla with another Tesla. And this last week, Tesla was reaching out to me trying to sell demo units within the app. In fact, it was very difficult for you to even go in and order a vehicle. It was the first time in the last 2 years that I've seen inventory on Model X, Model Y, Model S, and Model 3, essentially their entire lineup. Most were demo cars or new cars under 50 miles. All of them were being offered by the end of the year with different kinds of bonuses. It's mainly the 10,000 miles in supercharging, which is a pretty big bonus when you think about the cost of supercharging in general. Additionally, you look at NIO. NIO, again, weaker deliveries. NIO is one of the companies that we've talked about here on the channel before. And this one is back into the same kind of scenario. Are we dealing with some challenges in China that could push down where Tesla's potential growth market truly is designed for? And of course, this is something that's just you can't really anticipate it of what it's looking like. But again, Tesla stock tumbles again as China registrations also falter. So we're starting to see these numbers start to continue to move down. This again was from this morning. And insurance data suggesting that China's new total energy vehicle, this was December 19th through the 25th, were about 182,000 units. Now that's up 48% compared to last year's 12.6%. But when you look at Tesla's registrations, they fell to an estimated 8,915 on the week. And Tesla's registration the first 3 weeks was 11.6, 12.9, and 10.4. So you can kind of see, is China in a position right now where registrations are starting to decline dramatically? Has it possibly reached the tipping point in the car sales business? Because we're already starting to see the repo potentials here in the United States. Are we finally at the end of where car sales are going to start slowing? If it is the case and Tesla's car sales start slowing, this would be the worst timing for this stock. I don't think they could have timed it any worse. Obviously going into the recession, dealing with the pressures we're dealing with, and all of the things that we've not hit on the bullseye. If you look at the, remember, Musk unloading $23 billion worth of Tesla stock. This was in 2022. And you'll see the yellow line when he unloaded, and then Tesla's stock price. So right here was the Twitter deal, all right, getting approved. And then he unloaded right here. And this was basically on his bid to buy. Then in July, Musk attempt to terminate the deal. Twitter sues complete. The stock continued to rise, and then boom, he unloads right here at the top again. And then we had this little bubble right here where the Twitter deal closed, and then he closed maybe really for the first time that wasn't really a great position, but this position right here, and then again here at the end of the year. So he's definitely unloading a ton of stock at the tune of $23 billion worth of Tesla stock in 2022. How does this play out? If you guys see this from a CEO, does it cause concern based on all of the other aspects? And just as a quick number, I just want to go over here to the, actually I want to go to, I think it was deliveries. Yeah, here we go. So this is let me zoom up on this a little bit so you guys can see it. But this is showing the deliveries. You'll notice the big ones here, Model 3Y, right here, 228, 292 Q4 of last year. Remember, 228 versus 345 of this time this year is our Q3 numbers. 242, you can kind of see the numbers here, still strong, and then 345. This next quarter is so critical on the future of Tesla's stock price. I cannot tell you how much this is. If we do not see the numbers come in at estimates, even at the Wall Street's analyst estimates, this could cause some problems for Tesla in a short period of time. If you're not following Gary Black, you guys should be. Gary Black, I would say, is one of the top analysts on Tesla, and he was breaking down a couple of things here. And there's a couple things he hit on right here that he was talking about guests that are missing the year-to-date through September 20th, was ahead of the NASDAQ. This was up again, but all the Tesla damage has come since 10/1 after Tesla missed the 3Q deliveries due to China. And again, this is the thing. If we have seen this much damage from the miss on deliveries in Q3, what happens if we actually miss on Q4? That is going to be a big capacity that we'll have to watch. Sawyer Merritt is another guy I follow pretty heavily. Sawyer does a great job. and he breaks it down. He breaks down a lot of things within Tesla itself. There's a couple of things here I thought were kind of interesting right here. Is just the December insured units. This is in China, and you'll notice here BYD 51,000 units. Tesla was 8915, and you can kind of see BYD is the nemesis of Tesla in China in terms of the top EV manufacturers. And we've had a guy by the name of Taylor Ogan on our show before. Taylor is, for what it's worth, he's a big pro BYD person. He's always talking positive about BYD, so I take it for a grain of salt. I think he owns a Tesla, and he also is very pragmatic about his Tesla position. And when you look at what Taylor's talking about, and these are some things that I thought was kind of interesting. This was a tweet that I want to play, and this goes back to the whole situation of full self-driving. To be fair, Musk did warn us, and basically what he says here is Elon Musk solving the full self-driving problem is really the difference between Tesla, let me zoom up on that, being worth a lot of money and it being worth basically zero. And this was in the Kilowatt podcast. This to me is the issue that Tesla has to solve in 2023 if they are to crack out of any of the potential downfalls of lack of deliveries in 2023, Q1, Q4 and Q1. I think full self-driving will be, and I just don't think that based on what I've seen in driving the vehicles, using the product, and seeing the releases at the speed in which they've been releasing, I just don't see that that's going to happen in the next year. If it does, this would be another unbelievable feat. Now, granted, he could throw Cybertruck into the mix, and kind of swirl it up to cause a little bit of misdirection, which Elon is a master of. That itself could have a huge impact on stock price, but I think it would be short-lived because I think at the end of the day, they have to deliver on full self-driving. Further into this, I want to talk about what he said here, is that there was a couple of things. This was a Twitter Spaces where they were talking about the issue of not reporting the Autopilot safety numbers and why. This came out on the LA Times. It was a big deal. And in this topic, Ogan concluded that the numbers of reported Tesla crashes on U.S. roads has grown far faster than Tesla's sales growth. And the average monthly growth in Tesla's since NHTSA's, this is National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration, issued its standing order was 6%. He figures while comparable crash stats rose around 21%. If this is the case with Autopilot, this would be a massive setback for Tesla. If this is revealed, in fact, that we started to see more crashes due to potential Autopilot usage. And I think that, again, is the Achilles heel for Tesla. The other Achilles heel for Tesla is this right here, and this is BYD. This is Jack Shea talking about this. They delivered now you have Tesla and BYD essentially starting to pace each other. And BYD delivered 230,000 EVs last month, okay, up 153% year over year. And you can kind of see the numbers now standing at 1.6 million EVs. BYD has become the number one electric vehicle in the world. And the question now is, can Tesla catch them? And remember, BYD mostly sells in Europe and China. They don't even have a product here in the United States as of now. What would that look like if that completely changed? So when you look at the forecast for 2023, yes, Cybertruck might play into this. Yes, they might hit these deliveries and they might not. If they don't, this is a problem because we're not moving into a sales cycle in 2023. It's going to be positive for car dealers and new car sales especially. Autopilot is facing some of its biggest challenges possibly ever. And we're dealing with a distracted CEO. And that's, of course, Elon with what he's doing at Twitter. Doesn't mean he can't pull it off. Doesn't mean that there's not a way for this to happen for Tesla. But at this point in time, I just see that we're going to continue to see a downtrend on Tesla's stock price. So it's a big issue that I think will continue to play out. I know a lot of people will continue to say, hey, well, let's just buy it at this rate. Because really, if you look at Tesla long term, and if you believe on this, if they don't get crushed by BYD in China, and if BYD doesn't come into the US, and if we don't see the American automakers, I mean, you see all of the pressures that start to come into this. Now, I will go back and say, well, they've continued to deliver and grow and grow and grow, but not necessarily deliver on all the key elements. All of that could still play into a stock price in the range of 200 to 500 in 10 years. It's trading at 128 bucks, probably going to drop under 100 bucks in early Q1, and that might be actually the entry point for Tesla. Could be the new bottom for Tesla. All right, so we're going to take some questions. I know we have a poll coming in right there. Let's take a look at the poll. All right, here we go. Tesla stock, buy, sell, and hold. Everybody's buying right now. I think you're buying a little early right now, guys. Not that I can call a bottom or anything, but I just look at some of these scenarios that are playing out in the current landscape. And remember, you need to look at Q4 earnings and Q4 deliveries. Those are going to be the biggest. That'll be huge for Tesla. If he hits it, he's again snaked out another, which is why I think we're seeing all this, year-end car sale deals with Tesla right now. I actually might take him up on one of these offers too. We'll see how it goes. All right, let's go into some questions. Why are people panicking about Tesla? Unless you're a fund manager, you should just go long. Keep DCAing. I would agree to a certain extent, unless you bought at the top. If you bought at the top, you're upside down. You have no option unless you were able to sell back in September when Tesla was over $300, trading it now at 128. Think about that, guys. All right, basically 2/3 of your wealth gone in Tesla stock. Now, granted, that's as of today. So it's really about timing, and I don't give financial advice, but it's really about timing on the situation. For me, it was all about seeing Bitcoin continuing to drop and having an asset that was showing some movement, and I sold all my Tesla and exited into my position on Bitcoin. And that was the move that I felt was one of the best moves I had made all year. What about their charging stations all over the US? Isn't that an advantage? I would agree that it is an advantage, but remember, they've opened this up to other vehicles, and I don't know if you guys have ever experienced charging stations here in Florida or California. It's not a fun experience. In fact, I try to avoid them like the plague because the lines are getting out of hand and we're dealing with real congestion at these charging stations. It's a problem. So that's not as smooth as everybody thinks it is, okay? All right, so Mr. Gidget says Elon had everybody holding the line while yeah, I think he might have dumped on us a little bit there, for sure. Cybertruck or not, Tesla is heading to $50. That's a possibility. I don't know that 50 will be the number. Again, if they miss Q1 and Q4 and then they're still going into a declining market for now, then you've probably got some pain, I think, in Q1 and Q2. But anyway, that's, yeah. All the S&P 500 is down for sure. Definitely agree with you there. And Tesla is no different. It is one of the key automotive stocks out there for sure. Imagining the battery, yeah, okay. Well, this is another one, Mr. Gidget, that I would agree with you. I've spent 3 years now in Tesla vehicles, almost 4 actually. And I look at that problem because it is a real issue, because the more I dive into battery development and the battery production, the mines in which we have to mine the materials, they're not US based. And it's a dirty process. It is a real dirty process. It's not sustainable. Most likely we're going to have to come up with a different solution. I'm sure that Tesla's team is working on this, but this is not a long-term sustainable operation. This is a concern as we see battery manufacturing advancing in the next few decades. Now, BYD is doing some interesting stuff with their batteries. In fact, it's probably their real value is their manufacturing capability on batteries, but that's in China, and it's not a US-based car company. So this is a problem because, remember, it puts the United States behind the 8 ball again in automotive manufacturing and what could be one of the biggest innovations out there. Nobody has safe when the Fed is tightening, trying to make some gains. I think the key here, Joey, is that there is actually, I wonder if are you connected to Gareth? I haven't seen that name very often. But Joey, I think the key here is that there's trades to be made. And I think actually 2023 is going to be a trader's market, short-term swings, analyzing markets movement, staying on top of the news. I think there's some opportunities for money to be made in 2023. So don't get too don't get too down on it. How many reverse splits Tesla do? So how's the stock going down? Yeah, well, there's a lot of that going on. Remember, they did split. It was a three-way split that they had, and I think we'll continue to see some pressure, as we've talked about, with just this whole issue on deliveries. And I don't think it's really going to be a big issue that the stock price goes under 100. If it goes under $100, that will be a psychological point. I'm going to try to get James from Invest Answers on the show, because I know he's a huge Tesla fan, and he's got analysis around the world on where Tesla's growth can go from. And when you look at what they're doing on the battery side of things, remember the Powerwall stop manufacturing or stop producing. It's almost impossible to get a solar roof. All those things that we thought were going to be much further along by now, 2022, end of 22, going to 23. All of that has really started to slow things down. Engineering should never be compared to stock price. I would agree. Tesla has 2.5% of the American share and doesn't pay dividends. Yes, that's true. Interesting. Here we go. We got something coming in from Quest. I flipped on Meta. I just got our daughter a Quest 2. I jumped on and had a massive future shock. VR will be a niche, but a major one. To understand presence, you have to experience. This is something. Grist, I'm going to have to get one of these things. One of our guys in the crypto pit has one. He just keeps, egging us on of trying to grab one of these. But I think I might actually have to do it, but we'll see. Anyway, you're right. Tesla is Elon's personal piggy bank, and I think it might get drained a little bit more to deal with the situation at Tesla. All right, guys, we got a 3 o'clock coming up. It is the biggest villains in crypto. Who do you think it might be? We're going to line them out and why it is so important for the future of crypto. Don't miss that live stream. It's coming up at 3 o'clock. Here today, we've got a lot of videos coming out for you throughout the week. We'll give you some analysis, some sentiment breakouts. We got a lot of best ofs and some analysis looking into the potential of where Bitcoin could be going in 2023 and some of the crypto projects and, of course, metaverse, NFTs, and all that. All right, if you guys are not in the Diamond Circle, jump in. It's the best place to really kind of get not only feedback from us, because we're dropping content in there, so in case you can't keep up here on the channel, you can always catch it via your email inbox. It's simple, it's easy, and it's free. If you guys want to catch me, it is out there on Twitter, @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.